Hey everybody, welcome to my basic blink and eye dart tutorial. What we're going to be focusing on today is how to, animate a basic blink along with basic eye darts, but also really focus on getting flexibility in the face. Blinks are one of those things that are very easy to overlook because they're very common and they're used very often in our animation, but they're very important. For the same reason. Basically, every single time we move our head, we blink, sometimes multiple times, as many as 30 times a minute, depending on the mood or the attitude of the character. Nervous people tend to blink a lot, and so on. But the goal of this tutorial is to just show you the fundamental principles that are happening when we blink, so the physicality of it, how we actually blink, and also how to get a lot of flexibility in the face when we blink. Sometimes we don't want this much flexibility in a blink if we want it to be faster, not draw a lot of tension, but it's really good to understand the technique behind how we get a really nice, organic, fleshy sort of feel with a blink. So the first thing that I'm doing here is the eyelids. There are a couple of important rules when it comes to animating blinks with the eyelids. First rule is that you should always have them closed for a minimum of 2 frames, because anything less than that will look like a strobe and we won't actually read the closed eye shape. Generally, when it comes to opening and closing the eyelids, the top eyelids come down, but the bottom eyelids also come up, but less so. It's generally about an 80 to 20 split. So but the top eyelids come down about 80% of the way, bottom eyelids come down about 20%. And something else you may have noticed that I'm doing here that's really important is I'm moving the pupils as well. Now, this really depends on how realistic or cartoony your rig is, but the idea is that you never want to see any whites of the eye during your blink. So with this character, because the pupils take up a relatively small amount of the eye, we want to move it down with the blink or with the eyelids so that we don't see any whites of the eye. Now, in a really realistic blink, like a human blink, our eyes actually roll upwards, which is kind of counterintuitive. You wouldn't think so. They do. Watch reference videos. It's crazy. But for this rig, we have to move them down just because that's the way the character was designed. Now, when we blink, not only do our eyelids move and our pupils move, but our eyebrows move, our forehead moves, our cheeks move, and all of these things move, conducive or like offset from each other. So you can see right now that my eyelids come down, and then a frame later my eyes squish, and then a frame after that my eyebrows come down as well. And when I'm doing this, I don't create one key pose in the middle of the blink and then go and offset it later. I actually build my offsets in between my key poses. And this is the technique that you should be using for any motion in the body. I'm a firm believer in setting the least amount of keys possible. So I wouldn't go to, in this case, frame 6 and do a completely closed shape and then start setting extra keys onto all my other controllers to create the offset. I'm going to go to frame 6 and 7, create my closed eyelids. Go to frame 8, squash the eye. Go to frame 9, move all the eyebrows down. Go to frame 10, squash the head down. But I build all my offsets into my breakdowns. I don't set them, then offset them. I just skip that step. Now you notice here I'm actually going a step farther, and because this character has 3 controllers in his eyebrow, I'm actually offsetting each part of the eyebrow from each other to get a sort of a wave effect in the eye. So the outer part of the eyebrows go, then the middle, then the inner ones. And this is all about just getting, that nice fleshy sort of feel with the eyes. Another important thing to note, and this varies depending on the type of blink that you do, is that generally the eyes slow in and then speed up into the blink. So we slow in and then speed up to the closed shape and then bounce back out really fast. So it's almost like a bouncing ball sort of feel that you're getting in the eyes. Obviously, would change for a really emotional, fluttery blink, or the type of blink that, say, like Scrate would do in Ice Age. Something that's very organic and very soft and smooth, almost rubbery, I would say. But generally, regular blinks are quick in and out. So what I'm doing right now is I'm creating my ease out. So what I did was I selected my last key, pulled it out about 6 frames, and then pulled the handles back. And this is the quick and easy way of doing ease outs in Maya. It's a technique that I really don't think is used enough. I find that it's good for almost 80 or 90% of all my moves to do just a simple ease out by pulling the keys out and pulling the handles back. I will use this all the time to rough out timing for motion, but lots of times it's good enough just as is, and it doesn't even require any refining. So I'm just going through all my controllers now and doing my ease outs. Now, there's a lot of debate over offsetting one eye from the other. It's common knowledge Pixar likes to offset one eye from the other. Keeps things really fleshy. Also, I was told at one point that Pixar usually follows it's almost like a formula where they do one blink with the eyes offset, one blink with the eyes at the same time, and then rinse and repeat. So it's almost like every single time you get one where they're offset, one where they're together. One where they're offset, one where they're together, over and over again. There's no hard and fast rule over this. It's really down to preference. Having them offset creates a little bit more of an organic, rubbery feel. If you don't want to draw attention to the eyes, do them together. If you want to draw attention to the eyes, or if it's a really slow blink, you definitely want to offset them. Generally, if I ever do double blinks, I'll do them both together. If I do slower blinks or ones that are more expression driven, I'll generally offset them. And on turns of the head, I'll usually favor the eye that's leading the move to open first, as if the eye is opening before the head gets all the way in. Once again, that's really down to personal preference and feel, but that's just something you can take a note of when you're animating. You'll notice that I did the nose as well, because when we blink, there's just ever so slightest amount of nose and cheeks in there, so I'm getting the nose and cheeks in there as well. And now we're ready to start doing eye darts. So eye darts, I'm sure you guys know if you've ever looked in a mirror, but our eyes do not move smoothly from one place to another. They never just drift across the eye. Even if we're following something that's moving left to right, we look at it in a series of jerky movements, like a little bit, little bit, little bit, and that's how we look. So eye darts are really important. You have to make sure that you never get this feeling that the eyes are floating across the whites of the eye. So, good rule of thumb for eye darts, 2 frames, 2 to 3 frames, and pull those handles all the way back. You want them to feel like they're moving really fast, and then just the slightest bit of an ease on the other side. Once again, more cartoony, the quicker it is. I find 2 frames works for a character like this. Also, move both the eyes together. You never want it to feel like one eye is moving more than the other on an eye dart. You're going to notice it. It's going to feel weird. And I generally find that eye darts work best if they look in a direction and then look back to where we are looking, because that's kind of what we do when we are looking at stuff. We look at something, we look away, we look back. Now, this is another little layer of detail that you may or may not like to do in your eye darts, but I absolutely love doing it on cartoony characters, and that's where I actually squash the eye on the frame in the middle. It almost gets the feeling like the pupil is stretching out to reach its next location, and it really gives a little bit of squishiness to even the eye darts, and I absolutely love doing that on my eye darts. It is something, once again, that's noticeable. The more realistic that the character or the animation you're doing, the less that this will apply. But for this type of animation, I absolutely love doing this. Now I'm going to just delete the keys on one of them here, as you'll see what it looks like without and with. But I'll leave that up to you whether or not you like to do that. That brings me to the end of the basic blinks and eye darts tutorial. Thanks for watching. Catch you next time.